2021, in our view, will be the year of recovery. But I would say that the first thing that needs to happen over and over and over again is vaccination, vaccination, vaccination. Because while you say that vaccination is there, well, we have vaccines, more by the week, which is good. They're being manufactured, they're being distributed, but people are not yet vaccinated. So it's going to take a while before we have this herd immunity, which will not be in and of itself satisfactory because we know that we have the variants and so on and so forth. But I would say that that is priority number one. For us, priority number two is implementation, implementation, implementation. It won't surprise you. But we have this extraordinary move from the Europeans all together, deciding to borrow together, deciding to give grants to each other, deciding to have loans at very cheap rates in order to help those most affected by the pandemic. But it's now a question of delivering. So it was agreed in July, voted by European Parliament last week. Now it needs to be ratified, it needs to be supported by the recovery plans that the member states are preparing, and money needs to roll in the course of 21. So vaccination, implementation, and from our perspective, we want to make sure that there will be favorable financing conditions all along, so that the recovery can really take roots solidly and take us into a 2022 where by then we catch up with the pre-COVID-19 situation in terms of level of GDP.
Already some people are saying it might not be enough, calling for more. You've changed hats from, a finance minister, now you are the other side. Do you worry that the EU will borrow too much? That having now got this new power, it's a scintilla's move to actually suddenly say, oh, let's go back for some more?
No, I don't worry that they will borrow too much. I'll tell you what I worry about. I worry about the necessary transition between supporting entirely the economies with moratorium, with guarantees, with furlough schemes, and income substitution, which is needed, which will continue to be needed into 21, and how, as the recovery takes hold and how, as the economy picks up, how those schemes will gradually, not brutally, but will gradually be removed. That's the moment which I think is the most difficult, the most subtle, and where judgment will have to be applied. But are they going to borrow too much? I don't worry particularly about that. And if I look at our own policy in terms of monetary policy, we have embarked on this pandemic emergency purchase program that you mentioned, which is earmarked with one particular item, flexibility. If we need more, it will be recalibrated. If we don't use it all because we don't have to, we will not use it all. So I think that we really operate with flexibility as one of the guiding principles.
When Janet Yellen, who of course is a good friend of yours and you know well, when she says she wants to go big with a 1.9 trillion stimulus package. And you say no limits, of course, in relation to, I mean, is her go big your no limits? And I wonder whether people are now saying I know this sounds weird when we're in the middle of it, but people are saying there's too much stimulus about to be launched around the world.
There is the stimulus that is needed around the world because the world is in this unbelievable, exceptional situation. And the stimulus is needed now. Janet speaks from a position where she's now Secretary of Treasury, and she goes big with fiscal. When I said no limits and we have to go fast and we have to go big, that was back in March, I was speaking from a position of central bank governor. What is characteristic of this particular crisis is that we go hand in hand. Fiscal and monetary did not work so well together back in 2008 or 2011 in Europe. And very often you heard the central bank governors saying, it cannot just be about monetary policy. We are not the only game in town. You don't hear that anymore, because both on the fiscal front and on the monetary front, policies are working hand in hand and are really laying the ground for recovery to take hold after we are done with that period where economies have switched off.
Let's talk about the mandate, the price stability mandate. Again, it sounds weird when we're at the inflation. I see no inflation, but with this much stimulus, now the Fed has changed its inflation target. It's tweaked it, quite nuanced but significant. You're reviewing your inflation target. Are you moving towards a less rigid 2%?
We shall see, Richard. We are still currently operating under the previous close to but below 2%. But clearly we are reviewing that. We're reviewing the inflation measurements. We are reviewing the instruments. We are reviewing the alliance between fiscal and monetary. We're reviewing each and every item that actually composes the monetary policy that we will deploy in the months to come. And that will be disclosed in its entirety in September.
You're not going to give me an insight into where your thinking is?
No, my friend, I won't.
If that's the case, the worry here fundamentally is that Europe, it came out of the Great Recession sclerotically. The central bank, you're right, did most of the heavy lifting. Now you've got better lifting. But has a new era evolved in structural reform, do you think? Are governments prepared to make it? And in this, I'm thinking your predecessor, I mean, now at the Prime Minister, not Finance Minister, Prime Minister of Italy, you would hope he will make the structural reforms that you and he have been calling for.
I'll tell you two things that I've found striking when I came back from Washington to take this job as governor of the central bank here at the ECB, is the willingness of the Europeans to work together. We had never seen something like that. They went together with various programs. I will spare them for you, but SURE is one. The special European guarantees, the ESM additional programs. They all went out with a package which is 540 billion euros to support employees, to support companies, and to support sovereigns if need be. That was one step. Step two, they agreed all together, 27 member states. They agreed to go together and borrow over 750 billion euros for a recovery and resilience plan that will then be distributed throughout the member states, either as grants, no repayment, or as loans, low interest, in order for them to fuel their recovery. That I had never seen, and nobody had ever seen that. That's at the regional European level. What is happening at the national level, Italy is a good case in point, is the determination of the people with support from parliaments to actually go for practical, effective results. At least that's what my predecessor, Mario Draghi, has announced in his speech yesterday at the Senate. Vaccination, reforms, proper recovery and resilience plans to restore the capacity of Italy and improve its current economic situation. This is also a significant change.
If you go by that, I'm not selling my XRP.